We've talked about it in the past, and now we have to talk about it again. Is a Ja Morant trade going to happen for the Miami Heat? Because there is a report that there have been internal discussions inside the Heat organization about maybe trading for Ja Morant. And we'll get to that report here in just 1 second. But the Heat might want to switch things up. They've hit a bit of a wall here. They're on a 3-game losing streak going into the NBA Cup quarterfinal game on Tuesday evening against the Orlando Magic. They're on a 3-game losing streak against the Dallas Mavericks, the Magic last Friday, and then an embarrassing 20-point loss to the Sacramento Kings, who came into that game with only 5 wins on the year Saturday night. So there are certainly, when you're looking at this team, Miami has issues, whether it is inability to stay on the court. Tyler Hero's had injuries. We've seen Norman Powell miss time with injuries. We've had Bam miss injuries. Whether it's actually fit, Andrew Wiggins, Bam, and Kel'el Ware, when they're on the court together, it has not been good. But when you have certain iterations of those three on and off the court, things switch up a little bit. So there's a lot of issues with Miami. Despite them being 14-10, I still think they're an above average team, but they're certainly not going to compete for anything in the Eastern Conference with their current roster. But if they make a big trade before the deadline and make a roster shuffle, maybe that's the case. So let's talk about it. So I already laid out the fact that Miami probably needs to switch up the roster in some capacity if they want to win anything this season within the Eastern Conference. And if Miami believes they are unable to trade for a Giannis Antetokounmpo who may be available at the deadline this year, could they kind of go, all right, that's not going to happen, and then call up Memphis to maybe trade for Ja Morant? We know Miami and Memphis has a really good working relationship going back to the trade in 2019 that sent Jay Crowder and Andre Iguodala to Miami, 2 key players that obviously helped Miami get to the finals in that bubble year. Well, before we showcase the actual report from Jake Fischer, wanted to make people aware we will be live on Tuesday afternoon for NBA Cup quarterfinals. Yeah, elimination knockout stage. Heat Magic once again in Orlando. This is the thumbnail, so if you see it, click on it. We're live. Join us tomorrow, an hour or 15 minutes before the game starts. All right, here is the report from Jake Fischer, more or less on the Miami Heat, saying Miami was already shaping into a surprising buyer on the trade market before last week's Giannis headlines. League sources say that the Heat, for example, have had internal discussions about Memphis's Ja Morant and how Miami's infrastructure could benefit him. So Miami definitely exploring a lot of different avenues they could go down to upgrade the roster before the deadline in February to try to make this team a real threat in the East. But I will tell you right now that I am out, O-U-T, all capital letters, on a Ja Morant trade. You might ask why. Well, I'm going to go through the reasons on today's show. Number one reason why I'm out on Ja Morant is his decline in production. It's as simple as that. He has not been as good over the last 2-3 seasons, this year specifically as well, as he was in the first 3 years of his career. Drafted number 2 overall in the 2019 draft out of Murray State, a personal favorite of mine when he was playing for the Racers, by the way. I couldn't get enough of Ja Morant in college, as well as his little big man running mate. Real ones always remember Darnell Cowart. Who knows Darnell Cowart? Certainly you don't. Coop doesn't know him. Only I know him. But anyway, Ja Morant has not been good this season. He's only played in 12 games, so he hasn't been on the floor that much, and he only is playing about 28 minutes a night when he is on the floor. But 18 points, 7.5 assists, while shooting 36% from the field. Do you guys smell that? That's some stink. 16.7% from 3. What are we doing here? This is not high-level basketball, especially for someone who has the ball in his hands as much as he does. And this is kind of illustrated in his advanced stats according to B-Ball Index. You look at some of their analytics on the offensive end. This doesn't even account for how poorly he defends, but that's a story for a different day. You look at the offense. And by the way, when you are ranked in the first percentile, that's not good, folks. You want to be in the 99th percentile. Remember, percentile means how much better than you are than your peers. 1%, first percentile, which is his shot-making efficiency, that means he's basically the worst in the entire league. Third percentile in his shot quality, third percentile in self-created shot making, so he hasn't even created for himself off the dribble that well this season. He's 16th percentile in true shooting percentage, 9th percentile in effective field goal percentage, 5th percentile in off-ball shot making. So not only is he not able to create any shots for himself, but when he is off the ball, cutting, doesn't do that a lot, or off the catch threes or jumpers, he's 5th percentile. It's been bad for Ja Morant. And it's actually been this way throughout his career. Like we mentioned his first 2-3 seasons in the NBA as a rookie, sophomore, third-year guy when the Grizzlies were a top 4 seed consistently in the Eastern Conference and were going up against the Lakers in the playoffs. Yeah, he was good finishing at the rim, but it has gone down every single year. His at-the-rim frequency, that is a main concern. Considering, by the way, he is someone who shoots the ball at the rim more than anyone else. You saw on that chart, his frequency is going down, so he's not beating that many people off the dribble. He's not getting to the rim as often, but it's equally matched with his field goal percentage. How crazy is that? Like, he's not shooting good, and he's not getting to the rim anymore. So, Ja, how are you going to be an efficient offensive player? Well, the answer is not, because we just displayed it. He's not a good shooter. So if someone who relies on athleticism and getting to the rim isn't getting to the rim or finishing at the rim, but he also can't make a jumper, why is that someone you want on your team? That's the question. And that's why I said I'm out. But you be the GM. Let me know. Would you trade for Ja Morant? Type Y for yes or type N for no. Pin comment today's show. Number 2, why I'm out on Ja Morant. Number 1 is obviously the most important. I don't think he's that elite of a player anymore. But the fact that he's consistently injured is another reason why I don't want to trade for him. Because he is always missing time. He has been out since November, I think it's 14th or 17th, with a calf strain. He's close to returning, but we displayed his stats on the year just a second ago. He's only appeared in 12 games this season. But he's had shoulder injuries in the past, and he's had surgery on that shoulder. We know he's been suspended. He's dealt with hip injuries, knee injuries. Now, nothing catastrophic outside of the shoulder injury, but the point I'm trying to make is it's not like you can count on him being on the floor for you every single night. That is not the case whatsoever. So, decline in production and missing 25 games plus every single year, why are you trading for that? Another reason why I'm out. We got 2 more reasons here in a second. But this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Holiday season is here. You still got football. You got bowl games. You got basketball matchups every single day. And you could play any way you want on Prize Picks. You want flexibility? Choose the flex play where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want the biggest payouts, go for the power play. No matter your play, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. So simple. Just pick more or less and at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. For example, Monday Night Football, more than A.J. Brown receiving yards, more than Kamani Vidal rushing yards. No Heat basketball, so I'm going to the Monday night game in professional football. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Number 3, why I'm out on Ja Morant. Simply put, he's a pain in the ass. Because he can't be on the floor. So not only is he injury prone, folks, but he also has issues off the court. Whether it be the IG Live debacle that got him suspended for 25 games to start a season. He also is not a good leader whatsoever. I mean, I get it. You could be frustrated with your head coach at times, but calling him out is never going to go well. It just isn't. And he did that to his Grizzlies head coach earlier this season about the structure of minutes, and did that last year as well with the offense. Fun fact, he had the same issue with the Grizzlies offense last year. You know what the Heat's offense is this year? The Grizzlies offense from last year. Nate LaRoche, the one who implemented it for both the Grizzlies in 2024 and the Heat in 2025. But also, I mentioned the off-the-court concerns, whether he's focused, the off-the-court antics. Is that going to hold up in Miami? Listen, Miami's a beautiful city. It's an awesome city. Get yourself in a lot of trouble down there in the 305. Would Ja Morant be able to stay out of trouble? I don't know. I mean, you can't say it definitively either way, but it's certainly a question that has to be talked about and answered before you make a trade like this. But also speaking of a trade like this, if you're trading for Ja Morant, he's going to be expensive. So decline in production, injury prone, pain in the ass, and he's expensive, not only in his contract, but probably making a trade for him. Why would the Heat want to do this? It feels like it makes no sense. Now, Ja has an ascending contract, obviously, signed a max rookie contract extension. Getting paid $39 million this year, so not the hardest contract to match in a trade, but he's getting paid $42 and then $44.8 before becoming an unrestricted free agent in 28-29. And not only are you thinking, all right, is Ja Morant worth $40 million, $45 million over the next 2 seasons if we trade for him? But you also have to factor in, what am I trading for Ja Morant? What am I going to have to give up to get him in Miami? What would Memphis want? Are they going to want young elite players in return for Ja, the former second overall pick? Are they going to want draft capital? Like, I'll tell you right now, I don't think I'm trading any draft picks for him. I don't think I am. So I have 2 trade offers that I would maybe think about doing. But as I made it clear, I said I do not want Ja Morant. But for the people out there that are in on Ja Morant or curious on what a trade would look like, in my opinion, I don't think any picks would be sent to Memphis for Ja. So the most ideal outcome, I think, for Miami, if they seriously pursue Ja Morant, which I think would be a bad idea, would be just swapping Tyler Hero and Ja. Both are making similar amount of money. Ja Morant's under contract longer than Hero is, so Miami doesn't have to face the extension question with Tyler Hero this upcoming offseason. Ja might be a better fit than Tyler because he's that true point guard. You move Norman Powell back to the 2 normal spot, and then you have Wiggins, Bam, and Ware filling out the starting lineup, and then you move Davion Mitchell to the bench. Maybe, just maybe, that works. You know, Hero's got his issues defensively, can't stay on the floor, and you certainly cannot have a backcourt, by the way, that is Ja and Tyler Hero, which is why I would prefer the first offer compared to this one, because if Ja and Hero are on the floor together, oh my goodness, the opponents would be licking their lips. It's barbecue chicken in that backcourt defensively. So here's the other idea that keeps Tyler Hero, Andrew Wiggins, and Simone Fontecchio. I certainly have my issues with Andrew Wiggins. Ja Morant's better, obviously. You get rid of Fontecchio to make the salaries match. The Heat would save about $2.5, $3 million in that trade for this season. They get off of Wiggins' $31 million player option this upcoming offseason. Fontecchio, obviously, is an expiring contract. Point I'm trying to make is, like, I don't think I would be happy if the Heat traded for Ja Morant either way, but I'm certainly not going to say, hey, let's trade picks. That would be a disaster. You have 2 tradable first-round picks. If you miss out on Giannis and you want to still add to this team, do not waste your draft capital on Ja Morant. I think that would be a major mistake for the Miami Heat. You save those picks for a bigger target like a Giannis if he doesn't get traded and he's still available in the offseason, or an Anthony Edwards if things go south in Minnesota and he asks out. You do not send picks for Ja Morant. Plain and simple. That'll do it for today's show. Like I said earlier, make sure you subscribe because we're going to bring you daily Heat content, and we'll be live tomorrow on Tuesday evening for Heat Magic NBA Cup action. So make sure you tune in.